Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Dexter Original Sin on Paramount Plus with Showtime. The season is almost over, you guys. This was episode 7 called The Big Bad Body Problem. The body was not the only bad problem with this episode. I do think the season got off to a little bit of a slow, rocky start. It took me a little bit to get into it. The last few episodes, I've enjoyed. I thought they were good, but this one, for some reason, just fell flat. Before we get into that big reveal and also ask ourselves why it seems like Dexter wants to get caught, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do cover a lot of dark shows like this on my channel, including The Hunting Party, a new one on NBC. We've got Severance on Apple TV Plus every Friday. I will have a video on that later today. And then looking ahead, I'm going to be covering School Spirits on Paramount Plus, Paradise on Hulu, and The White Lotus coming to HBO Max next month. So be sure you're subscribed and don't miss any of my coverage. Okay, let's dive into this episode. I knew from the beginning I did not like Patrick Dempsey's character, Aaron Spencer. I wasn't sure exactly why. Maybe it is because he is this big bad, but I wasn't expecting him to be the bad guy, especially with his son missing. Now, we did see he's got kind of a temper. He's not thrilled with the homewrecker who ruined his marriage and is now going to be marrying his ex-wife, but I didn't expect him to kidnap his own son. If anything, I thought Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, Tanya, would end up being the big bad, which raises my next question. Is it possible she and Aaron are working together somehow and they have this dual vendetta against the judge? We've been waiting for Tanya to do something all season. Why are you casting Sarah Michelle Gellar if she is not playing a prominent role here? Yes, she is a special guest star, but this reminds me of a recent show on Apple TV Plus called Before, which, by the way, really flew under the radar because Apple TV does seem to spend all of its money marketing Severance, which is fine. That's a great show. But Judith Light was in the show Before with Billy Crystal. We barely saw her all season long. And while we do have a little bit more Tanya here in Dexter Original Sin, it's not enough. You are paying her all of this money to be in your show. So there has got to be a bigger payoff here. I do think it's possible that she and Aaron are somehow working together. Why else would she have missed that very obvious spot of blood on the box that they were looking at that had the finger inside of it? She is a seasoned person, professional, working in law enforcement. There is no way she would have missed that. And then for her to say, oh, good catch, Dexter. And then Dexter starts putting the pieces together. He tests the blood. Eventually, we find out it's the same blood type, which, of course, everybody thinks, okay, it must be Nikki's blood. Well, it's not, because we did see Aaron get attacked by his son with that handle from the bucket in the room where he's being held hostage. Dexter caught a glimpse of that bloody bandage and something clicked for him. Dexter is putting the pieces together that Aaron is behind this, which raises some very important questions as to what Dexter is going to do with this knowledge. It seems like he's probably just going to kill him. We can maybe assume he's a serial killer, but he may only have one body count, right? It may only be Jimmy Powell, the judge's son, which doesn't make him a serial killer. So Dexter would have to do a little bit of digging, maybe follow him around, do some detective work, and figure out if in fact he has killed other people to see if he fits in with Harry's code. And if he does, then it would make sense for Dexter to take care of him. But along the way, will he discover that Tanya is working with him? Could those two be involved somehow? And maybe Aaron is just putting on a show that he's so upset about his ex-wife and her new fiance. Maybe he's been with Tanya this whole entire time. We can surmise that Patrick Dempsey's character probably won't make it out of the season with what Dexter knows. I think it makes so much more sense for Dexter to kill him than for it to come out that they actually have a killer at the Miami Metro PD. Dexter's not going to want that kind of attention on the station. It might draw more attention to him. and all of the things that he's been up to lately. And the Miami Metro is already under scrutiny for the way that they handle cases. So I can't see it having another big stain on this department by putting it out there publicly that Aaron Spencer is responsible for this. So could Dexter possibly frame somebody for this who is not tied to the police station? So that way there's less of a light shining on people that actually work there. And if Tanya is involved, what does that mean for her? Is Dexter going to kill both of them? I've got questions. And yeah, okay, I didn't see it necessarily coming that Aaron Spencer was going to be the big bad and kidnap his own son. That's kind of a wild twist. But I also really don't know if I actually care that much. For some reason, as I mentioned, I just don't like his character. And yeah, maybe it's because he's a bad guy, but it's something about Patrick Dempsey in this role that just doesn't do it for me. I just have to think there has got to be more with him and Tanya. Why are we not giving Tanya more here? And if we're looking ahead to Dexter proper, the OG series, where is Captain Matthews? He was obviously a very prominent figure in that show, and we don't have that here. So could Dexter take out Patrick Dempsey's character, and that is what paves the way for Captain Matthews in the future? It is weird that we have not seen a lot of this character yet. My next big takeaways from this episode are related to the fact that it seems like Dexter is being so careless, almost wants to get caught, and conveniently just slides through all of these issues he's dealing with while drawing unnecessary attention to himself. First off, we have him using his credential at the Tony Ferrer arm drop alligator alley scene. That is a big risk. And while he did get lucky and Masuko was there and just kind of assumed that Dexter was supposed to be there, how did nobody question the fact that he showed up when nobody called him? For a police department, boy, there are some holes going on there. Not to mention, he has a whole ass body in the pickup truck. To double down, enter the crime scene with your credential that you're really not supposed to be using with a body in your trunk. What are you doing, Dexter? I get it. He pulled up to the scene and was not expecting law enforcement to be there, and he adapted. But something about it just, I don't know, it feels like he's being so careless. Like, why are you doing this? And we know he's not going to get caught, obviously, because he in turn goes to have a big career as a serial killer, which is still going because we've got Dexter Resurrection coming in the summer of 2025. Even on the scene with the arm situation, they task Dexter with taking the fingerprints. And he's sitting there like, how am I going to get out of this? They are going to tie this arm back to Tony. Even though Angel does anyway, regardless of the fingerprints or not, and I'll get more into that in a couple of minutes, but how did everybody just buy that Dexter would be silly enough to let an alligator come and get that arm? It was far enough from the shore where that never should have happened. And even though people are kind of making light of it and they're really not being very hard on him, which could be because of who his dad is, seriously, guys, nobody is questioning this. No wonder Dexter is able to thrive as a serial killer working at a police department when he's surrounded by people that don't figure this out for years. And then he's gonna go dump a body in a dumpster in broad daylight? Are you kidding me? I get it. He went through the list of towns and why they would be good or bad disposal sites. He hasn't really come up with something yet. We know eventually he gets a boat and becomes the Bay Harbor Butcher, and that is his means of disposal. But for now, sorry, Dex, you can't be dumping bodies in dumpsters. It just is not smart. And for somebody who thinks that they're smart, who is educated, who's going through all of this trouble to create a code, why take these big risks and put you and really Harry and Deb too in danger? I don't get it. They are making us as viewers kind of feel like Dexter's a superhero and he can just do whatever he wants with no consequences. I just feel that there's somewhat of a disconnect between the Dexter we're seeing here and the OG Dexter. And granted, he does have a lot of room to grow as a character and a serial killer, But this episode just did not feel quite as strong as the ones of late. And then also, we have Angel, who identifies the ring of Tony Ferrer. And Angel was the one who told Dexter about him in the first place. And then Dexter's just going to casually convince him to drop it and then instead focus on Nikki Spencer. Angel should know better. Angel is pursuing justice. And for Dexter to say that's not the right kind of justice, I understand why. Obviously, he is trying to shift focus away from him. But I don't buy Angel just believing him and being like, oh, okay, Dexter, you 20-year-old almost blood spatter dude. Sure, let's focus on the other thing. Nah, not buying it. Even though I buy Angel as that character, this actor is absolutely incredible at capturing his mannerisms, his looks, all of that. I don't buy this character's choice here. And then continuing on our questioning of why Dexter is just being so careless all of a sudden, the fact he's going to ask his police department coworkers where they would bury or hide a body. Are you kidding me? If I was Harry, I realize he can't just drag him by the ear and bring him in his office and yell at him about this, because obviously we can't reveal that Dexter's a serial killer, but I mean, come on, Dexter. What are you doing? Could you be drawing any more attention to yourself? Although, really, we do have bigger fish to immediately fry because now we know that Aaron Spencer is the big bad of it all. Maybe Dexter is feeling a little bit invincible now that he's got this information, and maybe he's already got a plan of action here to either frame somebody else to take out Spencer or take him out himself. I'm not sure yet, but again, I imagine we're not going to be seeing much more of Aaron Spencer after this season of Dexter Original Sin, should we get another one. All right, one more final point about Dexter and his lack of care in this episode. When Harry is talking to him about it, Dexter's like, well, yeah, but nobody knew, or, just nonchalantly, casually shrugging Harry off when Harry has every single right to be highly concerned about what his son is up to. This nonchalance just seems to have come out of nowhere. Now, is Dexter just, distracted? I mean, he's got a girlfriend now. Well, not for long, because obviously Dexter could not decode beeper speak. That is the sole purpose we had Deb in this episode, to basically be like, oh yeah, this means XYZ on a beeper, which, I'm sorry, but can we finally give Deb something to do? Okay, the volleyball stuff. She's getting in a fight with her friend Sophia because she was defending Dexter about the fact that she blew him in the bathroom, and Dexter has basically been ignoring her since then. Maybe it is just paving the way for her to not go to college, and that is why she ends up becoming a police officer, but still, it just feels like she's dangling out there in the Dexterverse with no job. Hopefully, we will get some more Deb content aside from just some swearing and some 90s nostalgia in the next couple of episodes as we wrap up the season. I'm really hoping there is a big Deb moment in the finale because you know what? Molly Brown has earned it playing this role. She has nailed Deb to a T, from her looks, mannerisms, the swearing, every single thing. So let's all cross our fingers that we finally get like that big Deb moment finally here, you guys, right? On to my favorite part of this episode, which was also pretty ridiculous, but I loved every second of it. When Dexter was down there researching the serial killers, and they showed little flashes from the notable ones, but Ed Gein coming on there with a human skin lampshade. Are you even kidding me? Ed Gein is one of the most notorious, sick serial killers out there. If you don't know a lot about him, I would recommend listening to the Morbid podcast with Ash and Elena. They've got a great episode. I believe it's 2 parts on Ed Gein. You don't want to miss it. And Ryan Murphy is going to make his next season of Monster about Ed Gein. Either the next one or the one after that. I'm not sure. But either way, Ed Gein will be featured in Ryan Murphy's Monster. I haven't loved all of them. I didn't get through the Lyle and Eric Menendez one or the Jeffrey Dahmer one simply because I just couldn't watch it because it was so disturbing. I imagine the Ed Gein one will be even more disturbing, probably the sickest yet. I will try to watch it though, because I mean, if we are picking our favorite serial killers, and I use the word favorite loosely because obviously I do not condone killing, but from a psychological perspective, Ed Gein is a case study in pure insanity. And I just thought adding him in there, this nod to the other serial killers who essentially are Dexter's idols, I guess. I mean, that human skin lampshade, that was a real high point for me, which says a lot about an episode when the high point is completely unrelated to any real character or storyline. And it was just something kind of thrown in there for the campiness and the humor of it all. Again, nothing funny about human skin lampshades, but something about the way they just kind of threw that in there. I enjoyed it. Okay, another storyline that is very secondary or even tertiary or whatever the fourth thing would be is Clark and Dexter. In the last episode, Dexter did observe Clark at the gay club. Clark said he had to move to Miami so he could be the person he wanted to be. Why are we having this mirroring? Because it's obvious. Obviously, we know Dexter also has another side of him he doesn't want people to know about. Okay, cool. So doesn't Clark. Dexter's cool with it. He doesn't care. Will this somehow come into play? I mean, yeah, it makes them have more in common, potentially be friends and allies. Perhaps Dexter ends up having to call on Clark for help should he end up doing something to Aaron Spencer. But that would also come with inherent risks because obviously he's a police officer, and looping in one of your colleagues if you're killing a police captain could be a problem. So I'm not sure how that dangling thread is going to come into play, but they wouldn't be having this storyline if it wasn't going to be. All right, the Laura Moser storylines. Early on this season, I did not mind the Harry flashbacks. I love Christian Slater, and even though we did get a lot of Harry backstory in the original Dexter, I thought it was interesting to see it from Harry's own perspective, give more context that maybe we didn't necessarily need into Dexter's childhood. But it's like we already know what's coming at this point. We know now Hector Estrada has told Laura to meet him or meet his crew at the shipping containers next week. We know she dies at the shipping containers, so we know what's coming. I mean, I don't know, just this scene with her nude in the pool, it felt unnecessary, a little bit gratuitous. I mean, why? Like why? Just why is my main question. I understand he wanted her stripped down bare to build this level of trust, but for me, it felt more like humiliation. And when he says to his crew to keep a close eye on her, he kind of already suspects something is going on. And why would he have already got her there in the first place? And I'm also a little surprised the actress went along with it. I mean, I understand you have a job to do, but if it was me, I would advocate and say, I just don't think it's necessary. They could have even had her naked and not shown it. I don't know. I mean, it's not a big deal. I'm not a prude. Just from a storytelling standpoint, I don't know that there was enough value to really warrant that. Another storyline we have going, we have LaGuerta and Harry, who are going to go on a road trip to Tampa to investigate this alleged serial killer, which is funny because Aaron Spencer really doesn't seem very keen on them investigating it. So could he be the serial killer behind these other killings as well? It doesn't track because it doesn't necessarily line up with motive or MO. I don't understand why he'd necessarily be out there killing them, but he does seem resistant to furthering the investigation. So could there be a tie in there as well? It's possible. Either way, I do imagine we will get the identity of this serial killer by the end of the season, and perhaps it will be Dexter's last kill in season 1 of Dexter Original Sin. We'll see. There was also a lot of focus in this episode on the blood slides, which we know Dexter eventually starts collecting as his trophies. We saw it a couple of times, so I think that is paving the way to really dial in his process and protocol, similar to how he is also doing it with the locations. He also really needs to get in the groove and figure out what his trophies are going to be. So it'll be interesting to see when exactly he starts collecting those blood slides. It could be that the first one that he takes is actually the sample he collected from the outside of the finger box, because that would mean he does in fact kill Aaron Spencer, and it's his first real substantial trophy that gets him in the pattern of collecting them. All right, well, next week we've got episode 8, Business and Pleasure. That leaves 3 more episodes this season. I would love if you would drop a comment and let me know your thoughts on the season, just in general so far, some highs, some lows. Your thoughts on this reveal that Patrick Dempsey's character is in fact a bad guy, and some perspective and thoughts on what you think they are doing with Sarah Michelle Gellar in this show. She just has not had enough screen time to justify the casting and spending all of this money on this phenomenal actress to not have enough meat on her story bone. So we'll see where that goes. Again, please be sure you hit the subscribe button. I will be back to cover the rest of Dexter Original Sin Season 1. I will definitely be covering Dexter Resurrection this summer as well, so don't miss it. I am looking forward to that series, I think, more than either this prequel or New Blood, and cannot wait. I'm also covering Severance on Apple TV+. I will be covering School Spirits on Paramount+, along with The White Lotus, which is coming to HBO Max in February, and Dan Fogelman's new show starring Sterling K. Brown. It's called Paradise. It premieres on Hulu on January 28th with 3 episodes. So stay tuned to my channel for all of the TV talk. I really appreciate you tuning in. Media Melanie, clicking off.